I am back for a brand new video, and you might be wondering what's going on. Well, to tell you the truth, I tried to infiltrate Blackbeard's territory, and I ran into Doc Q, and he affected me with the virus. If you want to know what the virus is, I'll give you 3 choices, and I'll see if you guys can guess which one it is. Option A. Option B. Option C. If you guys have already figured it out, please let me know. This is painful. This is torture. Come on. Why can't he just infect me with the malady disease? Oh, come on. Oh, come on. Luffy, I need to borrow some Aki, please. Save me. Damn, Luffy. Luffy, I need a little bit of Aki to help me. Not that much. Damn. You know, maybe I should have asked Law to help me. Please, Luffy. Did you really have to go get Clif? Hold on. Give me 1 minute, everybody. I'll be right with you. Alright. Let's get on to the video, alright? Hey everybody, my name is Clif, alright? And I'm finally better. Oh, yes, thank you. Alright. Let's get on today's video, alright? Well, if it wasn't obvious of that whole intro and that whole thing I just did and something like that, we're going to be talking about Doc Q. Or better yet, what I'm going to be doing is more of a suggestion or maybe possible ideas or theories on what diseases could we actually see inflicted upon the Straw Hat crew, alright? What kind of diseases could we actually look at, alright? And I actually think that could be something unique, something that could be kind of curious if we could actually come across it, which definitely I think the Straw Hats could be affected with some type of disease, alright? Now, when we first introduced the whole concept of Doc Q's Devil Fruit and like that, he has the Devil Fruit called the Shiku Nami, or basically the Sick Fruit, right? His Devil Fruit actually allows him to inflict diseases upon other people, right? And these diseases can basically infect other people. So only one person needs to be infected, and the disease can actually be spread out and carried through other people, right? We've seen this when Law and his crew got infected with the malady disease, which basically turned males into female, right? And it didn't necessarily matter who basically got infected because the disease can spread throughout the others, okay? And the only females wouldn't be affected by disease because it only affect males in general, okay? So with that all being said, and it's like that, what are some things that we can look at for the Straw Hat crew themselves? Like, what could they possibly be infected with, right? Could they also be infected with the malady disease, right? Which definitely that would only affect the males of the crew, it's like that. However, could there also be a male version of it, right? And that's basically something we have to curiously ask ourselves, okay? Now, it is obvious and probably well established that Chopper is going to be the one to face off against Doc Q, right? That just seems more the natural fitting of it, right? However, Oda has done some crazy things with the whole fights and stuff like that, so we're not 100% sure if that's the way it's going to turn out. It's just the one that makes the most obvious decision, and to be honest, I think it's the one that really should be done, alright? It's the one that just basically fits, okay? So, I did lay out a few things to go over and stuff like that, some possible things that we can look at in terms of like why these diseases or these inflictions can actually work, and why we can actually see them as possibilities, right? And I'll go over that, and I do have a lot more things to go over that I think could be further added in terms of like well, I'll get to those moments when we get to them and stuff like that. But let's carry on with the video, alright? So, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Clif. Let's get into it, alright? Alright. So the first one is obviously the gender swap one, alright? This is basically the one where the Straw Hats are basically gender swapped into like the opposite gender. So males become females and females become males, okay? Now, we might be, it's very similar to the whole concept of the whole Malady disease like that. So we obviously have one for the males become females. However, maybe in this concept, we can finally get one introduced where females become males, alright? That could be a very interesting concept in that case, alright? So that's something to look forward to, right? Matter of fact, in an SBS, Oda did basically give us gender swap version of the Straw Crew, so that could be something we can actually look forward to in that case. So definitely it is a very high possibility and something that could easily be established. So if I really had to give it a possibility, I'd have to give that like a 90% possibility, it's like that, only because we do know that a Malady disease does exist for it, right? So however, having Oda keep using the same type of disease on every single every certain like One Piece pirate crew that comes by seems a little bit kind of crazy. But to be honest, I couldn't put it past Oda for using crazy more times than he has ever done before. So that's probably a crazy thing to suggest. Alright. The next thing to go over is a body swap one, alright? So this, to be honest, like I wouldn't really insist this as being a body swap, but more of like a body transformation, alright? So think of like the disease like transforming their body and stuff like that. So think of the concept if he basically switches the Straw Hat crew, but instead of like switching their bodies, he basically just transforms their body, alright? So remember how during the Punk Hazard, how Law used his used his Delph ability to basically switch the hearts of some of the Straw crew, right? So Nami and Frankie switch, Frankie and Chopper switch, Sanji and Chopper switch, and then until Nami and Frankie and everyone got back to their own bodies, okay? They get the same concept here, but instead of it having where the Straw Hats basically switch bodies, they're basically transformed into that other person, alright? So think for example if Nami and Luffy switch bodies, alright? Or basically where Nami transforms into Luffy and Luffy transforms into Nami, right? However, this way we can actually see a very unique thing or a unique presence of like what if Nami had the ability of the Gum Gum Nami, right? Or what if Zoro had the ability of the Gum Gum Nami, right? And the reason why I'm suggesting this is because so think of it being like this, alright? So remember with Law's Delphins like that when he basically switched the bodies of the other crew members and other people like that? Those inflicted with Delphin abilities did not change from the original presence of what they were from, alright? So even though Chopper, who ate the Hito no Mi and like that, Frankie being inside his body did not change anything, right? Chopper had the actual Devil Fruit ability itself, right? That remained the same no matter what, alright? That did not actually change, alright? Now, that would be kind of a crazy idea to suggest, but something that could be very interesting, right? You'd also have to wonder, well, wait a minute, if Chopper like transforms himself, then how would that actually work in that case for someone who is already human-like? Which I will admit, that would be kind of questionable when it comes to Chopper and like that. But let's just, for the argument's sake, just stick with what I'm going to suggest here, alright? So, another good example of it is during Punk Hazard when Tashigi and Smoker switched bodies, right? Even though Tashigi was inside Smoker's body, it did not change anything, right? Smoker had the Moku Moku no Mi no matter what, right? So, imagine that same concept here where the Straw Hats are basically transformed into like, another member of the crew, but yet they're like, it's because like the body is still their body, even though it's transformed to look like something else. It did not necessarily change anything, right? So Luffy say for instance, Luffy looks like Nami. Nami basically has the Gomu Gomu Mi, right? That same concept, right? But it's still Luffy who looks like Nami, which makes it look like she has the Gomu Gomu Mi, right? We can even look at the same thing with maybe even Zoro himself, right? What if Luffy looks like Zoro, therefore Zoro looks like he has a Gomu Gomu Mi, right? Could that be a concept, right? Maybe we even might look at something where Nami looks like Zoro, right? Or Zoro looks like Nami, right? And Zoro basically fights with 3 sword style looking like Nami, right? Could that be a possibility? It probably could. And to be honest, there are a few good art creations out there that Oda has basically provided it, and a lot of merchandise that would be pretty interesting to see if something like this could actually occur. Which, hey, you never know. And if that's the way it's going to be, and that's the disease they're going to be afflicted with, I'm all for it. So, if I really had to give it a possibility of a chance, I really have to go with maybe like an 80% or 85, maybe 75. So, I would have to, let's just go with 80%, alright? So, I'd have to go with 80% just to give a good idea, and like that, alright? Alright. The next idea I have is animal transformations, right? So, there was an SBS question that was basically given on what animal best represents Straw Crew, right? And this could be a very interesting idea and stuff like that. It can be very unique and stuff like that, and something that could be very possible, right? Well, in terms of like maybe the Shiku Nami and stuff like that, if it is possible, right? I should be very careful on basically stating that it is possible. I mean, we don't know the full extent of like the diseases themselves, right? But if he's able to afflict people with the malady disease and transform genders, he might be able to transform a species among themselves to another species or another thing entirely. So that could be very possible, right? Now, when it comes to the Straw Crew, some of them, well, in terms of like non-canon media, some of them are already pretty familiar with being turned into animals, okay? Oda has basically given us the animals of the that best represent the members of the Straw Crew, right? However, there was a One Piece game released, I think, I don't think it was released in North America and stuff like that. It's a game that basically starred Chopper. I can't remember the name off the top of my head and stuff like that, but it was a game that starred Chopper. I think it was Chopper's Animal Adventure something. I can't necessarily remember the name of it off the top of my head and stuff like that, but the game basically featured the Straw Crew at the time traveling to an island and stuff like that, and then the other Straw members are basically turned into like animals, right? And then Chopper is the playable character. They have to go around the island and basically play as Chopper until till the game is finished and the whole strides return to normal, like that, right? So we might be able to see a concept here in the actual manga itself that will actually give us a unique version of that to where the Straw Hats are basically in their animal forms, right? And it might be possible that Chopper himself will probably not be affected by this because he's not because he's already an animal, right? So maybe the disease won't affect him because those who are already animals won't be affected, right? Another idea to actually throw in on this is that what if he actually changes the unique species of them and makes the Straw Crew Minks in general, right? He actually transformed them into Minks, all right? Now, this could be a very interesting concept, right? And I think it would be very, very unique to see Mink versions of the Straw Crew, right? I've actually made a video on the idea, like, what if the Straw Hats were Minks, and what is the best kind of Mink to represent them in terms of like what would be the best ones to represent them, right? Now, I should point out, just for the sake of it, and I'll have a link down to that video I made inside that if you're interested in seeing it, right? But I should clarify here that Minks are basically mammal-based, all right? They're based on like fur-covered mammals, right? So for the case of like Robin, whose animal is basically a bird-type animals like that, won't necessarily work, right? Because birds, birds can't be considered Minks in the One Piece world, right? That's not the way it is, right? This is why Morgan himself is not an actual Mink, but instead is a Delphi user to make up for that, okay? So there would obviously be differences when it compares to like some characters like Robin in general to basically give the motive of like what would be the best Mink to represent them in general, right? And I think that can make a lot of sense, okay? Now, if this is the possibility, and this is something that could actually occur, which would be very unique, right? I think it would be very, very interesting, and I hope to very much see it if it could be possible, okay? And stuff. And if it is, imagine the scenario of what it could happen if they end up witnessing a full moon. Like, will they transform into Sulongs? Like, could we actually get crazy Sulong versions of them in general? Could that be something to look forward to, right? And it could be crazy, right? And the only drawback I would have to say is that if this is actually going to occur, and this is the way it would be, I would have to say that I would pretty much enjoy Carrot to actually stay on the crew for that whole reason, right? Because imagine the scenario and how much easier and sufficient it'd be if Carrot had to be the one, basically be the anchor in that situation to basically get everyone to control themselves and get everyone to understand like, hey, you guys need to keep calm. You guys need to control yourselves, right? You need to stay calm. You need to keep focused. You need to control yourselves, right? And I think it would be very, very unique, and I think it could be really, really. I just think you could put Carrot in a more, more of a defining image and stuff like that. So the whole fan community would probably enjoy it, and it would basically like, increase, Carrot's fans. Maybe not totally increase Carrot's fans like that, but for the Carrot people out there who are very supportive of her, of like joining the crew and stuff like that, and really hoping that she can actually join the crew. Which, hey, if it ever comes to light that she does eventually join the crew, I'm all for it, right? I'm all for it 100%, right? And if I have to wait until the day that Oda finally gives it to us, then I can wait for it, alright? But if that's the way it is, and that's the disease they're going to be affected with, becoming Minks themselves, having Carrot there just seems to make the most sense in that whole regards, alright? But if not, then I can understand if it's just simple animal transformations, right? Which you never know, right? So it is a very unique concept and something that I would really much enjoy if it could actually occur. But we'll just have to wait and see what it could actually be. But if I really had to give a possible rating, I'd probably have to give it like a 80% as well. I give this one an 80% just for the sake of it, like that. Maybe even 70, but yeah, I'd have to go around there just to be unique. Alright, the next idea I have is a parallel version, right? So think of the concept here of, like, imagine if the Striac crew is infected, or basically they're infected with parallel versions of themselves, right? Or they're basically acting like themselves different, right? So think of the concept of, like, maybe Luffy is infected with the disease like that. He is infected, and then he starts talking all like, pirates are evil and stuff like that. Like, I'm a proud Marine and stuff like that, and he just starts talking like he's like a Marine and stuff like that, and he's just acting all crazy and stuff like that. And then the Straw Crew are basically bizarre, like, what's going on? Like, why is Luffy acting like this? And then all of a sudden, slowly, one by one, the other Straw Crew start acting like different. They start acting very very strange. Like, Nami could start acting like a parallel version of herself, where she's basically, where she basically like to the point, like, where she wants to, like, torture children and stuff like that. She wants to, like, rob the children and stuff like that. Basically steal and hurt children and stuff like that, which would be very, very upsetting and things like that. So, but the whole idea and the concept here is where it basically would affect them with the idea of, like, altering their minds and stuff like that, to the point where they think they're someone else entirely and stuff like that, but they're still them. They just think that they're, like, it's kind of like giving them the idea of, like, them being a parallel version of themselves. Like, what if Luffy was like this, or what if Nami was like this, right? What if the idea could be like that? Okay, there are some other possibilities to go over too. All right, imagine if the idea of, like, infecting them with a disease that could, say for instance, give the other Straw Crew the idea of what if they could have the Devil Fruits instead, and the other Straw Hats were basically normal, right? Now, one might argue that this would be a very dumb idea and stuff like that, because the whole idea of, like, having a Devil Fruit that can actually cure someone by giving them a disease or making them sick, which is kind of weird when you think about it like that. Like, in order to be cured, you have to get sick. But the whole concept here of just providing for the statement of this is, imagine if the disease basically inflicts someone like that, and basically gives them the ability of, like, another Devil Fruit, or basically gives them the ability of a Devil Fruit and stuff like that. However, you could throw in an argument here that maybe in some cases, with some of the ideas that these diseases that can be inflicted upon the person, maybe some of them might have life or death situations, right? So maybe it could be there to the point where maybe Doc Q basically states that, oh yes, enjoy your power, or for as long as you have, because this disease I inflicted you with only lasts for an hour, and I can promise you, you won't be alive and that hour is up. So think of that same concept here, where they're afflicted with disease, and yet they only have an hour to live, right? And they only get to enjoy the power for an hour, or like those who are inflicted with the disease are only inflicted, or like those who with Devil Fruits are only inflicted with the disease for only an hour, or like that. And then once an hour is up, you basically die of the disease, right? Now, obviously, if this is a disease that's going to afflict them with, we know full well the Straw Crew will not die from it. It's like that. So they'll eventually break free no matter what. There are some other things to go over too, like changing the species. I did mention that before, but let's look at something with maybe Nami, right? Let's think of some other ideas for Nami in general, right? And going over Nami, I think Nami is something I would really much like to see something that could be inflicted upon her. Not necessarily that I'm saying I'm hoping Nami gets inflicted the most out of the Oshar crew, but I'll explain everything I'm trying to explain here, okay? But imagine if Nami could be inflicted with a disease that changes her species. Maybe we might finally get to see the Mermaid Nami, all right? Maybe we might actually get to see a Mermaid Nami in the actual canon manga story, right? Maybe we might actually get to see that, okay? There has been Mermaid Namis in terms of, like, there was, like, One Piece and, like, an OVA Monster Time special where the Strats were depicted as, like, different mythical creatures and like that. Luffy was a dragon, Nami was a mermaid, but the whole concept here is basically, what if we might get something where the Strat crew look like different mythical creatures, or different monsters in general, and Nami might look like a mermaid, right? Maybe this could be something unique, and this could be something that could be worthwhile, right? So, hey, if that's the disease that's going to be inflicted with them, then, hey, I'd go for it as well. I'd enjoy it much, but knowing what disease that they're going to be inflicted with, or what they could actually be suffering on, really comes down to the hard choice that Oda's going to make, right? And we never know. That it could be possible that Oda's going to give us something completely new and unique, something that we never would have even guessed, all right? And we'll probably just have to wait in order to see what that is, okay? And whatever it is, then I'm sure Oda has some very unique ideas on what they could be inflicted with. Now, yes, we don't know entirely for sure if they will be inflicted with a disease. However, going over it, I really have to assume and think that they are going to be afflicted with a disease, right? So I'm sure a lot of people are thinking that as well, right? But but that's mostly the general ideas and the ideas I have on them being inflicted with disease and stuff like that. So hey, if those are the possibilities and everything I have suggested on disease, please let me know in the comment section below. Let me know if you have any ideas on what kind of disease Q will inflict the straw crew with. All right, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Okay, all right. Now, for the last thing to go over is something to go over with Nami in general, right? Well, actually, there are a couple other things I need to go over too, right? But let's stick to the whole Nami one, right? So, when it comes to the Straw Crew, the very first Straw that we ever seen really get sick in general, or the first time we ever not the first time we ever seen someone sick, because we've seen other characters get sick before, right? We know Usopp's mom basically got sick and stuff like that, and that's basically how she died. But in terms of like the Straw Crew, the first person to ever get sick was Nami in general, right? When Nami got bit by the Castilla bug, okay? And she had a very high fever. The reason I want to bring this up here is that remember when Nami was sick, right? And there was a moment where they were basically trying to take Vivi back to her home, her homeland, Alabasta. There was a moment where Nami basically predicted a cyclone on the Grand Line, like it was just that, like a snap of her finger, right? And it was weird because Vivi had basically mentioned that predicting cyclones on the Grand Line is nearly impossible, right? It is nearly impossible for even a pro who's been doing it for for all their life. And Nami had just basically gone to the Grand Line, right? This up, right? Even when she first entered and like that she didn't even realize that the weather had changed so fast on her, or even though she had just mentioned and that and stuff. So going over it, right? Imagine like how it could actually be if we might actually get another scenario like that where Nami is basically running a high fever again, and yet we might get something more of like a crazy storm prediction even more, right? And we know that when it comes to like Nami being sick regularly, imagine like what it could actually be or what it could actually occur if Nami was actually sick through some kind of some kind of supernatural or devil means. Like, could there be something that could further add into that whole scenario? Something that could totally blow up the fan base for Nami, and like so many suggestions on like what crazy ideas did Oda have planned for Nami in general. So, but yeah, that's basically what I want to suggest on that. So if you have anything to suggest or anything you want to point out yourself, please let me know in the comment section below, all right? Now, the last thing I want to go over is basically two possible diseases that we could see inflicted with them, but not be they might not show it just yet, okay? So the first idea to go over is the love sickness, all right? So the love sickness is something that is basically inflicted upon the Amazonians and stuff like that, or in terms of like the empresses themselves, all right? So Boa Hancock and it seems like all the other Kuja empresses were basically inflicted with a disease known as the love sickness, okay? And they basically had to leave the island or else they'll die, all right? Now, the whole idea of this whole love sickness is a bit bizarre and a bit strange, right? It almost seems like it might not even be like a real disease. Like, I might actually start to believe that the love sickness is actually a disease that was inflicted upon the by the Shiku no Mi, right? That could be a very high possibility, right? And the reason why I'm suggesting this is, think of it like this, right? So imagine if the love sickness is a disease that was, so imagine if there was like like anyone infected with Shiku no Mi and stuff like that, the disease always remains no matter what, right? So if you're not able to cure the disease, and depending on what it is, so maybe like the awakening of the Shiku no Mi might not always inflict the person themselves, but it can instead inflict something else. Like maybe it can inflict an object, or maybe it can infect something in general, right? So imagine you basically falling in love, right? So imagine if the love sickness inflicts you once you fall in love, or once you meet someone that you fall in love with, right? Someone that you love very much, right? And that's when the disease inflicts you, right? And if it only, imagine if the idea of the Shiku no Mi can only infect people for a certain extent on whoever that person wants to inflict, right? So if it's only inflicted the empresses, or those who are basically the empresses of the Kuja pirates of the island, then that would be something very unique, right? That would be something that'd be a bit crazy, which, to be honest, I wouldn't put it past Oda to basically reveal to us that the Shiku no Mi is the thing that actually created the love sickness disease in the first place, right? Now, I know some people might actually throw in their own arguments and like that, but if I had to suggest, and I really had to throw an idea, it could be possible that the love sickness was actually created by the Shiku no Mi a long time ago, and maybe it's something that was never fully cured and like that, okay? But that's just the idea I want to suggest on it, okay? Alright, now the last thing is this, alright? So the last thing I want to go over is, I'm actually not sure where this actually started, but a couple days ago and stuff like that, I came across some very interesting theories that basically suggested something crazy about Laugh Tale, right? So remember when Buggy got sick, when the Roger Pirates were heading to Laugh Tale and Buggy ended up getting sick, and he got that you will die if you go to that island disease, which seems very, very bizarre to basically get infected with a disease or basically a virus that is very, very present to that just general island in general, right? And I've seen some people suggest that the idea, because Buggy had a Delph fruit and was the only one who really was officially confirmed to have a Delph fruit, ended up getting sick and basically infected with you will die if you go to that island disease, right? Some arguments even threw in Toki as another example, right? However, Toki did get sick long before they even reached Laugh Tale, and even long before they even had the final road Poneglyph, right? So, to be honest, I don't know if that's necessarily, if that's a fair argument when it comes to Paris to Toki, but if Oda could make it work in that journal, I'm sure he could. But for the argument's sake, let's just stick with the whole Buggy concept, all right? So imagine how crazy it would be if Oda actually brings that up again, and when the Strike Crew does get closer to Laugh Tale, and yet we find out the characters like Luffy, Chopper, Robin, and Brook themselves. Imagine if they start running a very high fever and start getting sick, right? And imagine the whole scenario, the concept here, where Buggy, where they might try and get help. Maybe they might even run into Buggy and stuff like that, and then maybe Buggy will basically mention it's like, oh, I think you guys are inflicted with the same disease that I had. Yeah, I remember when I was a child, when me and Shanks and Roger and them were about to go to Laugh Tale. I ended up getting sick and ended up getting the you will die if you go to that island disease, right? Which would be very, very upsetting for Luffy, right? Luffy himself would probably just ignore the situation. Like, Luffy would probably just, like, go full throttle like that. And it's like, no, I can't give up just yet. Yeah. So, Luffy being a hard-headed person, no disease in his right mind would ever stop him from anything, right? But going over it, I could definitely see Oda bringing that back into the scenario, right? I definitely could see Oda twisting that and actually turning it into like a full-fledged plot, all right? Something that could actually be very, very interesting for the story to basically ask us, okay, we've gotten this far. Is this the end for Luffy? How will Luffy achieve his dream of becoming king of the pirates? How will he find the One Piece, right? If the One Piece is there, how will he find it? And to be honest, I don't know. But it would be very, very interesting to actually see what could actually occur. So, overall, that's pretty much all the ideas and suggestions I had to make, right? So, hey, thank you so much for joining me in today's video. I'm glad I have a good time making this like that. If you enjoyed anything I just suggest on any of this diseases or possible suggestions we might see for the Strike Crew, please let me know in the comment section below, alright? And please, feel free to leave down your own ideas of possible diseases that they can be inflicted with, alright? I'd love to hear your thoughts, okay? So, once again, thank you. You all have a good day. If you like my video, please like the video. Smash that subscribe button. I would love to have you join my join my YouTube channel like that if you want to. Hit notification bells. Share the video if you have to. Do whatever you need to make yourselves happy. Right? Once again, thank you so much, and you take care of yourselves and stay away from Doc Q. Right? The guy's just carrying bad germs with him everywhere. So you guys stay healthy. Have a good day. Bye, everybody.